Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 2 and we are going to present about fatwa on social and culture. These are the group members. Firstly, we have Nasrin Nuha. She will present about celebration of the non-Muslim festival. Next is Nurhanis Sabrina. She will present about greeting on the non-Muslim festival. Next is Farah Liana. She will present about ihtilat on social media. Last yet importantly, we have Amira Akila and she will present about elements of khurafat in culture. Let's get started.
As an introduction, we all know that Islam provides guidelines in all fields of life, whether in social, economics, and even in politics. The Islamic social teachings are aimed at making the society an exemplary one, which filled with justice, fairness, kindness, prosperity, sense of tolerance, and mutual respectfulness. So when we talk about social and culture in Islam, the social triggered our mind with ikhtilat. When we talk about culture in Islam, we all know that Islam has its own celebrations such as Ramadan Kareem, Aidul Adha, Aidul Fitri, Maulidur Rasul, and etc. So what is the issue arising regarding social and culture? So when we live in a multiracial and multi-religion country is that we have non-Muslims as our neighbor. So they celebrate their religious festivals too. So this is when many issues arise on how to behave or act on a certain situation. For example, we have the question in our mind, is it permissible to greet the non-Muslim on their religious celebration, and can we visit their open houses, and so on. The objective of our study is to analyze the fatwa regarding the social and cultural practices of non-Muslim, such as greetings and celebration of the non-Muslim festivals. Secondly, to explain and discuss the argument of fatwa concerning the ikhtilat on social media. And lastly, to analyze the elements of khurafat in culture and fatwa regarding it. Assalamualaikum. My name is Nasrin Nuha and I will be presenting about the fatwa on the celebration of non-Muslim festivals. Firstly, the previous scholars' views. The previous scholars such as Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, and also al-Suyuti prohibit the Muslim to visit any non-Muslim festivals because it has the elements of their belief and religions. So this opinion is based on the saying of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man tashabbaha biqaumin fahuwa minhum," which means he who copies any of the people is one of them. Ibn Taymiyyah also insisted that it is prohibited for the Muslim to follow or resemble the non-Muslim in any of the matters specifically related to their festivals, such as their clothing, their rituals of lighting fires, and so on, that contradict to the Islamic belief. Next is the contemporary scholars' view. Some of the scholars argued that it is allowed for the Muslim to visit the non-Muslim religious festival if the practices or conduct did not contradict the Islamic belief, and if the practice or the festival is only on the basis of social relation between Muslims and non-Muslim for the purpose of unity. So this is based on the evidence in the Quran, which I would like to highlight, meaning do not obey them but accompany them in this world with appropriate kindness. Next is the fatwa from Pejabat Mufti Wilayah Persekutuan. It is stated that the participation of Muslim in Christmas or any non-Muslim festivals or celebration is only at a certain condition, such as for dinner or photo shoot. So as for wearing certain clothes that are usually worn during those celebrations, it is cannot be done if there is no need for it. So in addition, it is permissible to attend a gathering of non-Muslim if it is held outside of a house of worship, such as the public hall, the field, their houses and so on for the purpose related to customs or adat such as serving dinner or having milk, and it is served with halal food. So if the ceremony is held in a house of worship on the day of the festival, it is makruh for Muslim to attend it, as it was narrated that Umar radiallahu anhu said, which means do not meet the polytheists in their church on their feast days, because the wrath of Allah is descended on them. Next is the fatwa from Mufti Perlis. So it stated that it is not allowed for the Muslim to participate in non-Muslim religious festivals if it related to the practice of non-Muslim religious rituals or tashabuh, which those that is similar to the practice of religion other than Islam. But if the open houses or celebration festivals of non-Muslim does not involve any of the rituals, it is permissible. So if there a need to do such things such as a family members, neighbors, or as a duty of a leader on the basis of safeguarding the welfare or interests of da'wah, it is permissible as long as it does not contrary to Islamic belief. Next is the fatwa from Jabatan Mufti Negeri Pulau Pinang. So the opinion that stated the act of visiting the non-Muslim festival is permissible, is more suitable and appropriate to the context of society in Malaysia. So the opinion is referred to the evidence of the original hukum of visiting the non-Muslim house, which is permissible. So especially this is the hukum especially for people who have family ties such as the parents, siblings, or friendship or neighbor. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said that do not obey them but accompany them in this world with appropriate kindness. Next is the legal maxim related to the celebration of non-Muslim festival. So according to Jabatan Mufti Negeri Pulau Pinang, they use the method of fiqh which says that custom is arbitrary, al-ada al-muhakkamah, which is more suitable and appropriate in the context of society in Malaysia. So according to the situation in Malaysia, open houses celebrations are more in the form of traditional or custom practices in the multi-religious communities and no longer involving any religious rituals or practices of the non-Muslim in those open houses. So we can see that open houses in Malaysia serve food, traditional food that symbolizes their culture and religion. So the situation is the same as the actions of the government, which grant public holidays in conjunction with the celebration of non-Muslims. So the act of visiting the non-Muslim festival should not be interpreted as glorifying and supporting the efforts to reveal the religion of non-Muslims, but rather as the act of tolerance that the Islamic government needs to do for them. As a conclusion, any practice or conduct of Muslim in matters related to the celebration of non-Muslims, if it involves Aqidah and I'tiqad, such as recognizing the non-Muslim religions or assuming that all religions are the same, then it is prohibited by Islam. However, if the practice or conduct is only on the basis of society or social relation between Muslim and non-Muslim for the purpose of unity, then it is permissible.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurhani Sabina binti Yahya, and I will present about issue of greeting on the non-Muslim festival. So greeting is a moral act that shows respect by being polite. In Malaysia, greetings are among the signs of unity in honor of their celebration. So frequently mentioned greetings are Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Deepavali. So the question is, as Muslims, are we allowed to greet on the non-Muslim festival? Firstly, we will see analysis of the divine evidence. So this is the evidence of scholars refer regarding its prohibition. Based on Surah Al-Furqan verse 72, Abu Aliyah, Tawus, Ibn Sirin, also others, stated that the word Azura in this verse means the celebration of idolaters. So Muslims should refrain from participating in the festival of the mushrik, as well as from all kinds of falsehood. So Ibn Taymiyyah also stated that there is no good or benefit of religion to be gained because everything is false, and anyone who witnesses are counted as attending it. This evidence is based on hadith of the Prophet Muhammad SAW in Al-Musnad in Al-Sunan, which is meaning he who imitates any people in their actions is considered to be one of them. So Ibn Qayyim stated that congratulating or conveying the meaning of the same verse is forbidden because it seems to congratulate the unbeliever for pushing himself in front of the cross and towards greater sin. Secondly, we move to the evidence of scholars refer regarding its permissible. According to Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, it is permissible to congratulate non-Muslims if they are not at war or hostile to Muslims as stated in Surah Al-Mumtahanah verse 8. It's evident based on hadith narrated by Abu Zar that the Prophet Muhammad SAW said to him. He commented that the Prophet Muhammad SAW did not say only do good to Muslims but to all human beings, regardless of race, religion, and rank. He also stated that congratulation on non-Muslim festival must not be accompanied by a confession of their faith or disbelief and should not contradict Islamic principles. Next is analysis on legal magazine. The says al-ibratu bil musammayati la bil asma means evaluation is on what is named, not on the names. So the content of the speech and the intention in greeting non-Muslim as a sign of tolerance as well as muhibbah, not just a literal congratulation. So if a Muslim congratulates non-Muslim, he does not necessarily mean to acknowledge or glorify something. Now we move to analysis of the argument of the fatwa. The majority of scholars, especially from four mazhab, forbid greeting non-Muslim festival, especially religious festival. As we can see in Mazhab Shafi'i, based on Imam Al-Damiri, stated that punishment of ta'zir will be imposed on those who take part in the celebrations of the infidels, including congratulate them in their celebration. But at the same time, there are several earlier scholars as well as most contemporary scholars who allow it. One of them is Imam al-Bulkini. When a person congratulates a non-Muslim with the intention of glorifying his religion, then he is considered an infidel. But if he congratulates without intention, then he is not considered an infidel. Based on the views of contemporary scholars, there is no consensus among scholars on its prohibition. Shaykh Yusuf al-Qaradawi comment was made on the fatwas issued by Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim. First, he agreed that Muslims are prohibited from celebrating the festival of non-Muslims, but if only to congratulate them is a different situation. Second, Ibn Taymiyyah issued his fatwa in the context of his time and condition. So if he lives at this age and sees how close we are now, of course he will lighten the fatwa on this issue. So the conclusion is the Fatwa Committee, Malaysian Islamic Religious Affairs Council, decided that any congratulation in conjunction with religious festivals are sent via cards or telecommunication equipment to non-Muslims are allowed, follow on the condition that they do not acknowledge, praise or use the religious symbol of non-Muslims. In summary on the issue, there are differences of opinion regarding the prohibition and permissibility of greeting non-Muslims on their festivals. So the conclusion is Muslims are allowed to greet non-Muslims on their festive celebration, provided there is no purpose to glorify or acknowledge the religion. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next, I am Farah Liana and I'm going to explain about ihtilat on social media. So what is ihtilat? Ihtilat is an interaction between two or more individuals of different sexes without the participation of the mahram at the accurate place. In Islam, maintaining boundaries and proper behavior is required as it reflects the moral dignity that Islam idolizes. But nowadays, the emergence of social media such as Instagram, TikTok, Bigo, and also Twitter provide no boundaries for people to entertain themselves, thus becoming a concern in Islam due to the ihtilat occur between genders. Firstly, let's take a look on the divine evidence. So first, we have the Muslim Ummah is prohibited from being in a secluded place with their different gender companion. It is in line with the hadith from Sayyidina Abdullah in which the Prophet Muhammad SAW said that no person or man should be alone with a woman except when there is a mahram with her. The la yahluwanna in the hadith indicate la an-nahiyya that result in the prohibition. Secondly, there is also a hadith from Imam At-Tirmidhi that explains between two people, a man and a woman, there are the third of them, which is a shaitan. Next is the analysis on legalism. Firstly, the original rules of social media is permissible according to the Islamic legalism, which means the original rule of everything is permissible until there is an evidence on its prohibition. Secondly, the rules become haram if there is a haram element in them. For example, if there is a man and a woman chatting on social media without the valid reason, then it is prohibited. It is accordance to the fiqh maxim, which means whatever leads to haram is haram itself. Thirdly is the analysis on the argument of the fatwa. So we need to take a look on the Malaysia fatwa first. The ruling of entertainment is permissible as long as it gives benefits to the communities. But dancing at TikTok and publishing it in the public is not permissible, as it involves showing the movement of the body to the public and even dancing with mixed genders. Some dancing methods also aim to increase the sexual desire of the audience. This is in contradiction with Islam, which urges the followers to respect and protect their boundaries among each other. This is in accordance to Surah An-Nur, verse 30 until 31, which is explained on the slide. The la yahfazu furujahum indicates a fi'l amar, which is a common verb for the jamak, which is for a group of people, not to a specific genders. Therefore, it is obliged for us, or it is a common for us, to lower our gaze and protect our virtue and dignity. Next is from Zimbabwe. Do you know Mufti Meng? Yes, he is a contemporary Zimbabwe Islamic scholar. He explained that the intention of increasing the view while showing our aura on the social media is prohibited. He cited the hadith of Rasulullah, Sahih Muslim, which is most of women in hell during the afterlife are because of their aura is not covered properly. And he also urged the men to lower their gaze when scrolling their social media and not engaging to the social media, which lead to the increases of sexual desire by commenting and also liking. This is also in accordance with Surah An-Nur, verse 30 until 31, which has been explained earlier. So what is the summary of this issue? Firstly, it is believed that ihtilat on social media need to be in line with the Sharia principle, and both countries, Malaysia and Zimbabwe, Islamic scholars have similar views and urge the protection of dignity of social media users. The intention and niyah of social media users are also important as it play a virtual role in conducting their daily activities. And this is also in sync with the Maqasid Sharia, in which is the protection of faith and also the protection of nafs. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good evening. I will continue the presentation with elements of khurafat in culture, the use of amulets or azimat as business lures. Firstly, we will go through the definition of khurafat and azimat. Khurafat is a story, whether the fabricated or imaginary, teaching, custom, taboos, prophesied, cults, or beliefs that are deviated from Islamic teaching. Khurafat also includes the deeds or stories that are fabricated and nonsense or lies. For your information, azimat is one of the khurafat elements. What is azimat? Basically, azimat is the object that used by some people for asking help or assistance to get something by using force which is beyond the nature or tabi'i. The example of amulet form is the any writing, figure or certain object that will use the yellow clothes. Other than that, there are also some people use the picture of figure and they will hang the picture on the wall as an amulet. Okay, next is the use of azimuth as business lures, or we more familiar with Polaris. Why people use azimuth as business lures? This is because they want to attract more customers, gain high profit, and achieve success for their business in a short time easily. So they take alternative with using amulet as business lures. Among the amulet used in business are the enhanced talisman, hang a picture of a figure on the wall, and bird of paradise. Okay, now I will give all of you one example that we usually saw, but we didn't know the function of that thing. The example is the hanging picture of figure on the restaurant wall. Okay, these practices are very famous among the restaurant owner. They use this picture to attract more customers to eat at their restaurant. However, Islam has forbade its ummah to use any amulets or talisman for any purpose. This is because amulets or talisman can lead us straight to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. This matter coincides with the hadith narrated from Ibn Mas'ud radhiyallahu anhuma. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Spell, charms, and the love potion are polytheism." Riwayat Imam Ahmad, Abu Dawud, and Ibn Majah. The meaning shared in this hadith is when a person believes that the amulet or talisman has power and is able to give effect, and these matters are clearly contrary with the concept of tawakal to Allah. Other than that, people who perform any matter that related to khurafat are belong to the group of people who are stupid and cruel to themselves. This matter mentioned in Surah Yunus verses 106. These people considered as stupid and cruel to themselves because khurafat things cannot bring any benefit to human beings and also cannot cause harm. In fact, it will affect to Muslim faiths. And the most important thing, people who associated with shirk will not be forgiven and have committed the greatest sin as mentioned in Surah An-Nisa verse 48. Next, the related legal mechanism for this matter is harm is to be eliminated. The usage of amulet as business lures has made people dependent on something other than Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It's clearly contrary with the teaching of Islam and will be degrade the Muslim faith. In Surah An-Nisa verse 48, Allah has clearly mentioned that people who associate with shirk will get the greatest sin and will not be forgiven by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Muzakarah National Council Fatwa Committee has decided the practice of worshipping and asking help from devil and jinn that is being practiced by shaman or sheikh. Those who befriend and using jinn can be categorized as ignorant and being cruel to themselves. Second, the usage of talisman or amulet as mantras that is used together with witchcraft are shirk and deviate from the Islamic teaching. So the summary for this issue is using amulet as a business lure is one of the khurafat practice and it's contrary with the Islamic teaching which can lead straight to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. This is because a person will depend on the amulets and not on Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to achieve something. And the most important thing, when we commit or associate with the shirk, we will get the greatest sin and will not be forgiven by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala for these sins. From this presentation, we can conclude there are various issues has arisen among Muslims that involve moral and faith of Muslims, like khurafat element, greeting and celebration of non-Muslim festival, ikhtilat on social media, and so on. Islam very emphasizing on faith, moral and Sharia matter, which will a proper explanation on the ruling of this issue. It will affect the faith and moral of Muslim and also make them deviate from the teaching of Islam. Therefore, with the fatwa, it will provide the explanation and understanding to Muslim about the rulings that has been set for each issue that has arises. So, as a Muslim, we must always refer to an expert if there any misunderstanding or confusion on certain issue. Other than that, Muslim also need to stay updated and alert with every fatwa that has been gathered by authority bodies. And lastly, avoid and leave things that are forbidden and contrary to Sharia in order to maintain the faith and well-being of Muslim.